Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Jamie File. So as civilization and society has evolved, humans have evolved alongside in tandem with society and civilization, because as society advances, it becomes more complex, and the more complex it becomes, the more information is pouring in to us as people all the time. So in the beginning, we had what you call the primitive area of the mind, which contains the fight or flight response. So if something in the and it was real simple back then. So if something in the environment triggers the fight or flight response, usually a threat, your nervous system, well, first your mind, then your nervous system. First your mind sees or registers that there's a threat, then it switches on your nervous system. Your nervous system generates an excess amount of energy to be released, either so that you could defend yourself or you can run away for safety. And most of the time, people would do either one. So the energy gets vented. But as society has become more complex, we can't do that all the time because it has too many repercussions. Like if you're at work and somebody says something you sort of don't like, or you have a minor conflict with them, you could punch them, but you'd probably get fired, and that wouldn't be good for your survival in the long run. And the way that evolution works is it's all based on survival at the end of the day. So it would be more beneficial to your survival if you were to suppress that excess energy that's switched on by fight or flight instead of releasing it onto your coworker. So that wouldn't be good for your survival. Unless you're on the street, that's a different story. If somebody on the street pisses you off or threatens you and you hit them and you get away with it, and hopefully you have the capabilities to put them out, otherwise you won't do it because they may have a gun or a knife, or they just might be stronger than you, and you wouldn't want to do something stupid like that. But you get the point. So it's not beneficial to, every time you get amped up for fight or flight, to fight someone. But what happens is, as society has gotten more complicated, humans have had to suppress this fight or flight urge more and more, because it's being switched on all the time. Anytime you have to cross a traffic signal, or anytime you have to return something at the store, anytime you have to deal with a conflict situation, your fight or flight response is going to be switched on. Or anytime you're hearing some news about we're going to run out of water or something like that, your fight or flight response is being turned on. So you're generating this excess energy, and it needs a place, it needs places to go. It needs to be vented out somehow because we're always suppressing it. So what's happened is humans have evolved extensions. Extensions from the mind. The mind takes in the information or the message units, and then it gets processed out through our different extensions. One of these extensions is dreaming. So when you take in a lot of information, you're going to accept some of it and you're going to reject the rest that you don't need, that your mind thinks that you don't really need. That excess information then gets vented out somewhere, either through physical exercise or through dreaming. So the way depression works is, depression is actually a defense mechanism. It's not as bad as people think. A lot of people look at it like it's an illness, which it can be, but it's actually an evolution. It's an extension that has evolved. And the reason for depression is this, is when you have too much information pouring in, and by information, you're also getting information from your own brain, because everybody has a belief system that forms by about the age of 9, and then as you become an adult, you put up even more filters with more experiences, and you actually learn to have a certain belief system. So from that point on, all the information that's coming in is filtered. So any excess information that's pouring into your mind, including the information from your own mind, needs to be vented out. And when it can't be vented out, what happens is you get anxiety. That's what anxiety is. It's an overload of thoughts. It's an overload of information that's swirling around in your mind. And Anxiety, when it's not processed, becomes depression, because depression will force a person to go to sleep. That's why you'll notice that when you're depressed, you have the urge to want to sleep more, because when you sleep, you dream, and when you dream, that's when you finally get to vent out that excess information. So a lot of times when you're suffering from a lot of anxiety, you might end up depressed, and when you're depressed, you'll end up wanting to sleep a lot. So that's how it works. But you shouldn't think that depression is a bad thing. See, if you know about why you have depression and how it works, it's not really a bad thing. It's there to defend you, and it's there to clean out the excess amount of message units or information that's not being processed. So another thing I want to talk about is the aura. A lot of people that I hear talk about the aura speak of it in a lot of metaphysical terms, but what the aura actually is, it's a mind space, because information, it's about, well, first of all, the aura is about 6 inches around your body. It's a field. You could call it a field. It's about 6 inches around your body. And what happens is when you have information that's coming in through your brain, the stuff that doesn't get processed will move into the mind. And from the mind, it moves into the aura. And if it's still not processed or vented out, the aura will push it back into the body. And if that happens, you get what you call body sensations. Body sensations are basically psychosomatic illnesses. It's basically you're making yourself sick. And a lot of people have unexplained pain or discomforts that will come up in their bodies, and they'll go to the doctor, and the doctor can find nothing wrong with them. But they know that they have pain in their back, or they have hives, or they have something that they know is not normal. And yet, the doctor can find no pathological origin as to why they're suffering. That's a really common case nowadays. Medical science does have a lot of quality care treatments for different things, but there's a whole lot of things that are unexplained. Example is Avicii, the DJ. He went to a lot of doctors and a lot of psychiatrists to find out why he stresses out so much and why he's in so much pain, and they said it was like he had appendicitis, or he had some liver problem. But really, they still didn't actually know exactly what the problem was, because they put him on treatment and pain meds, and it ended up just giving him opioid addiction. And he died mysteriously, but they didn't really actually... That was the best that they could come up with, and he himself was not satisfied with the diagnosis that was given to him. But this is a common thing in society, where people have body sensations, problems with their bodies, and they go to the doctor, and the doctor can't help them. So we need models and other maps to rely on. And by the way, when I speak about all these things, it's not a science, which is a good thing. It's not 100% truth and facts. And the reason why that's important is because human behavior is nuanced, it's chaotic, and it's straight up unpredictable. So any attempt to even try to create a system of 100% truth and facts and science is going to come up short, and it's been tried since the beginning of time, and it doesn't work. So what does work, or works the best thus far, is maps and models that have been repeated with statistical outcomes over and over again. So if you follow these models and you follow these maps, you will have much more success than if you didn't. Because it's such a chaotic, the mind and behavior, it's so chaotic that you need some sort of map or model to follow, preferably one that is dynamic. And another thing too is that you have to remember that the science of today is something different tomorrow. It's always changing as well. So this is a dynamic model and map. But this is one that has been tried and tested multiple times over centuries, and it's been modified as well. So back to what I was saying about the aura. So the aura is what you would call the mind space. It's the energy that from the mind that is radiating out. And that's why when you see or when you meet people, they do have an aura, whether you realize it or not. And some people claim that they can take pictures and see the color of people's auras. And to me, that's an oversimplified way of experiencing somebody's aura. When you meet somebody for the first time, they have an aura. And you are registering their aura subconsciously and unconsciously. But that's why just certain people, you feel magnetized or you gravitate towards them. And why is that? It's because of their aura. You feel more rapport with some people. You trust some people more than others. Or you feel energized by some people and you feel de-energized by others. And all that has to do with their aura. You don't have to necessarily be able to read it, but it's something that you will feel when you're in their presence. So if somebody has a lot of negativity or they are not healthy mentally and they're holding a lot of anger in, or they're bitter, they're gonna vibrate that way, and they're gonna radiate that energy out in the aura. And you're not gonna really want to be around them that much unless you too are depressed like them or angry like them. And then there is the case of misery loves company. So maybe you do like being around their aura if it's like that. But for the most part, the aura is an individual fingerprint. Not everybody's going to have a blue aura. And just because you have a blue aura doesn't mean that it means you're enlightened or something like that. No, the aura has to do with how the person vents information. So you don't know what kind of information is pouring in through their own mind and also from their own environment. So it's not going to look the same as somebody else's aura. Or it could. But it's better to look at the aura as like an individual fingerprint. And it is an energy body that's made up of message units from the mind that is vibrating out. So it's something to think about. And a lot of this information about how message units, information, how it gets processed, invented through the different extensions within the human body and outside of the human body is how we learn. This is all affecting our learning strategies. And our learning strategies is what is creating our lives, because behavior is something that is really predictable. The behavior that you have today can predict the way your life is going to be in the future with pretty high success. So that's why it's important that if you want to change your life in a major way, you have to change things on a deep level, on a deep subconscious level through a form of hypnosis. And you have to learn to have these new behaviors before you can actually see changes take place. And it can be a process that takes some time and can take a few sessions, but it is the way that you learned whatever habits you have. That's the way that you learn them. So that's the beauty of it, is that if you look at one person who's the epitome of success, and they're witty, they're charismatic, they seem like they have a lot of money, or they have things together, they're on top of everything, and you were to replace their programming with a bum, look how that person's life would be in 3 months. I guarantee you it would be the opposite of what it was previously. And it all has to do with how we learn. So that's the first lesson in being able to become the captain of your ship, is just first learning that it's all about your mind and body works based on survival. It's going to do whatever it can that best suits your survival, and it has to do with being able to process a lot of message units that's pouring in from the environment, but also your own mind. So this is something to first understand before we can move on, and it's just the way that our minds have evolved these extensions to process more and more information constantly coming in from our society. And I will leave you with that for now, and on the next video I will get into how hypnosis works and how I'll give you some more tools on how you can use this information to better yourself. Thanks.